that's trying to wake you up. There's something that's off there. There's something that's off in a lot of the responses that we can have, or some of these big life events that can happen that just throw us into questioning who we are and who am I now that this relationship has broken up, or who am I now that this person's no longer in my life. These things shake the very core of us. And when we are faced with a debilitating pain or anxiety or depression or addictive behaviors that we just cannot seem to get out of, things like this force us again to look in the mirror and say, I am suffering so greatly, something has to give. And this is where we start really taking responsibility as a choice, of course. Hey there, Alex here. I want to talk a little bit about awakening today, as you'll notice the theme here and the things that I keep talking about around this awakening. But I think the main thing I want to chat about is, how do you know if you're awakening? There's got to be some symptoms to that, right? There's got to be something that is trying to awaken you, and that's usually symptoms. And those can show up in every area. They can show up emotionally, they can show up mentally, they can show up spiritually, and of course, they can show up physically. And most often it's the physical stuff we don't realize it's trying to get our attention that has gotten so dense and so loud that we finally wake up to it. So let me just talk about a few of the main ways that you might notice that your soul is trying to wake you up. It's calling to you to pay attention and to start working on letting things go so that you can move into your wholeness, into your healing, and into the peace and the love and abundance that you are. So, and this is, of course, a choice. Now, you could decide not to do those things. Of course, it's always a choice, right? You could go down the path of healing, or you could go, the path of suffering. You can go the path of disintegration or integration. And we are in a period now of purifying our bodies and our minds and our emotions and bringing ourselves into a wholeness. And we do need to purify the physical body, the physical itself. That's called gross purification. And if we're not doing that, then we're going to notice all the stuckness in the body, the dis-ease in the body. We have the subtle purification, which is the mind and the emotionality. And that, of course, is the subtle purification and clearing. And then that brings us into that spiritual or that causal purification. And that purification is about learning the lessons, learning the soul lessons, karma, whatever you want to call those things, and writing those things so that we don't continue to repeat those patterns and our soul can evolve. And this is what brings us into more of a unity and a wholeness and a service to others type of a path. Again, it's your choice. You can continue on with more of a service to self and continue to separate and create dis-ease and disintegration. And that's fine. No judgment there, right? A lot of us are still learning from contrast. So we can play either side. All right, so let's talk about those symptoms. Some of the things that will throw you into very quick awakening are going to be major loss, death, close to you. It could be a big breakup, a relationship breakup that just throws you on the ground. There could be kundalini disturbances, like a spiritual awakening that literally creates debilitating pain and almost a psychosis, as that Shakti energy, as the energy, the life force energy is being forced through your body and it is pressing all of the distortions out. That is very intense spiritual awakening. You might notice in the mental emotional realm, panic attacks, anxiety, like really debilitating anxiety that's either chronic or acutely just hits at random times, as well as depression and that numbness and that disconnected feeling in depression. That can also be a chronic issue that's trying to wake you up. There's something that's off there. There's something that's off in a lot of the responses that we can have, or some of these big life events that can happen that just throw us into questioning who we are and who am I now that this relationship has broken up, or who am I now that this person's no longer in my life. These things shake the very core of us. And when we are faced with a debilitating pain or anxiety or depression or addictive behaviors that we just cannot seem to get out of, things like this force us again to look in the mirror and say, I am suffering so greatly, something has to give. And this is where we start really taking responsibility as a choice, of course. Now, oftentimes people will just project and push that stuff out on others, repress it, throw it down, like so deep down. But less and less are these modalities working because as we are evolving as a species and as a planet, and as the frequency of everything is rising, it's just not working anymore. There's just no running and hiding from it. So it's really time to face it. And I say, sit with your shit. And that is the truth. It's just something that needs to be done. And so what do? How do we get through some of these things? And there's many other ways that this can show up as well, of course. But what do we do? And I think the most important advice I could give you is to get still, to not be afraid of the stillness, because what does happen in the stillness is all of that stuff that we shake up. It's almost like salad dressing, when you shake it up, if you've ever made it from scratch, or even, I guess, a bottle of it, normally it's separated and there's like spices and then there's oil that floats and so on. If you shake it up, it's just all mixed in and it's just chaos. It's chaotic. But when that's your way of life, you're used to that. So stillness allows it to separate and allows the crap to float up. And yes, it's harder to be with that, but that's where we learn to let the emotions flow, let the stuff come out, and then start asking for the revelations and the clarity after you've moved the emotions, to see if there's something that is meant to be learned by that. So that's really clearing the subtle part of things, whereas you allow the gross purification to come up, the stuff comes up out of the body, those emotions which are released from the body come up, and then the emotionality and the mental chatter, you just quiet that down with that stillness and allow the answers to come up by asking for that. So you can turn off the mechanisms that are creating and stirring that up all the time and keeping it alive in you. And that's how we can move those things out. And then, of course, you also ask for the revelation in terms of, is there something that I need to learn here so that I don't continue this process? Now, please understand also, there are some sticking points here and things that keep us trapped in these cycles, especially around anxieties and depressions and addictions, where we've already developed such a pattern of thought, such a set of belief systems, limiting beliefs, negative programs, core faulty beliefs that do form a full operating system within you that generates this. Almost, it's the subconscious part of your mind. And so that can take deeper mining, deeper therapies and work to release. You can release the energies that are being generated from it. But if you don't work to dive into those limiting beliefs through journaling, through different therapies, or even, I used to do talk therapy, but you certainly can speak with somebody and try to bring these things up. But I think writing out and really questioning, what is it that I'm feeling here, can be a really strong thing. And of course, doing all different types of healing modalities can really help. Not only physically moving it out of the body with somatic work and massage, you can do therapies such as sound therapies, light therapies, and of course, energy healing. And that's something that I now do. And I actually decode these things. And I'd love for you to learn about that. If that feels like a resonant fit for you, it's incredible to be able to actually use mind maps, go into your subconscious with you, pull out exactly what's going on and clear those things. And of course, you'll come to know yourself, know thyself in this process, so that you can make those shifts and start and continue to elevate your whole life in every area. Again, this is going to affect us in many, many different ways. And whether it's a full-on spiritual awakening, or it's just beginning by pushing out these lower, denser energies, it is time. It's definitely time, and we're being sort of forced through the strainer, if you will, to start facing these things, if you're not actively, naturally just doing this on your own. And just one last final thought, even just from my own process, just to share my own, I'm definitely humble about this. Even just in the last year for me, after a lifetime of working on doing things, I was thrown into dark night of the soul after dark night of the soul after dark night of the soul. And what is that? That is spiritual. Like, this is, ego death. It's losing parts of myself, identities that no longer serve where I'm going. And as my frequency rises and rises into unity, those structures no longer stand. And so letting them go, it can be kind of gruelingly hard and leave you in interesting spaces, of void spaces that now have space for for more purpose. and being more in alignment with soul. And I'll do another video on that. I might do that next because that is really near and dear as well. So there's lots of reasons why we want to work through these things, because life is better on the other side. And if there's anything I could do to support and help you with that, please do. Check in the description and you'll be able to find my info. And then for now, I think that's really it. If this was helpful to you, or if you know anyone who's suffering that you think might benefit from some of these concepts, definitely subscribe and share this along with them. And I appreciate you getting that word out there so we can start helping more people. Thank you so much.